All right, salespreneurs, we have a special guest today, Gib Kroff. I'm excited to have him. I featured him in the last newsletter that went out featuring 37 sales reps that are building a business while in a W-2. And I just think it's a super interesting conversation that we can have here, just because a lot of the listeners are people that are in sales. They have you're working a W-2, but also trying to start a business, whether it's real estate investing or e-commerce or anything like that. But Gib, he runs a 52 agency, helping companies scale their online Amazon business. And so we're going to hear how he's been able to grow that over the last little bit while doing a job. But Gib, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you on here.
Thanks, man. I'm stoked. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I already shared a little about you, but you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Gib Kroff. I do have a sales background. I started off in the door-to-door agency. I think like a lot of listeners and like you, I know you started off in pest control. I started off in solar, did 2 years of solar. I definitely caught solar at a great time and was making, more money than any 21-year-old kid should ever make. More money than I knew what to do with. And that's probably what got me into like a lot of these dumb crypto investments and stuff, just didn't know what to do with myself with all the sales money. But I found myself realizing that sales, especially the door-to-door lifestyle, was not sustainable for the lifestyle I wanted for myself. And so I started looking for ways out of it, and just started trying to figure out what was the next step, because I knew I just couldn't do this forever. But what was so weird is like going and just getting like a W-2 regular job felt such like a step back, because I was making so much money in door-to-door. I'm still very young in my journey, still figuring a lot of things out, but I would, humbly call myself an entrepreneur. I have been able to bring in a few dollars here and there to myself. But I think the sales spirit really just brought that out of me, and realizing that I could go into an empty neighborhood, not an empty neighborhood full of people, right? And just turn a neighborhood into dollars. And it's just was the craziest thing, turning nothing into something. And so I'm excited, man. I'm excited to jump into it. Excited to hear the questions you have for me. And I'm just thrilled to have this platform.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think what you said too, just about being in door to door, I feel like you're kind of trying to graduate into something else.
Yes.
Going into a normal W-2 kind of feels like a step back, because it's like,
yes,
when you're doing door to door, it is very entrepreneurial. You get there's really no glass ceiling, but sometimes in the corporate world, it can feel like, oh, okay, well, they say that I can make 120,000 or 150,000, but then companies really like put this comp structure in place so that you can make that much. But if you go over, then they kind of stall it out, which the company should, right? Like the company doesn't want to pay over a certain amount, which is why there's a benefit in starting your own business where you get to keep whatever you kill. So I'm curious, just to like go back to where you started though. I know you've been doing, is it 852 or 852? Let me get that right.
I think either one. We're going through a little rebrand here. I know It's kind of a weird name. It was just a starter name to get us at least something. But yeah, 852 agency, 852 Amazon agency. My wife, Bailey, and I run the thing. She handles all the operations, and then I handle the sales and just growing the revenue each month. So it's been fun.
Okay, cool. So how did you guys even get started with this?
Man, dude, it was I think like a lot of things, it just started off with a big mistake. Like I said, we were in sales. I actually went out for my first summer while I was engaged to Bailey, and I had like $1,000 to my name, and I knew I couldn't even pay a month of rent when we were going to be married, right? So I had my back against the wall. I went out there, worked my butt off in California, just knocking doors every day. It was so hard. But I came out on the other end with a lot of money in the bank, married, feeling really excited for the future, very, very hopeful for the future. I think sales gives you this confidence in yourself when you're able to like make goals and achieve them. Your self-esteem just skyrockets. So we were feeling good, and then we did a whole year of sales out in California. We moved out there. We were doing school online. This was during 2020, 2021, when everything was online. And while we were out there, we were living the dream. Like, it was great, and we were making lots of money. But I was really struggling every single day, just getting out there. I mean, things like obviously anxiety is a big thing in door-to-door into sales industry. And I just realized this wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And so Bailey and I started talking, and we were like, okay, well, what do we do? And we started kind of talking around to some people of how they were being entrepreneurs. And we kept hearing this phrase called Amazon FBA. And we're like, okay, Amazon FBA. What is this Amazon FBA? We met someone, it was a young mom that was selling like baby bows, and she was doing like $7,000-$8,000 a month. And we're like, oh my gosh, if she can do it, like we could probably figure it out. And then we met another guy that was like selling hammocks on Amazon. And we're like, okay, if he can do it, we could probably figure it out. So it kind of just started becoming a topic of discussion of just like, okay, maybe this is a way we can build our own little business, make some money for ourselves, and I wouldn't have to go out and wander neighborhoods every single day and try to scratch a few dollars out of people every single day. And during that time, I came across one of the mini Amazon FBA gurus that basically, I'm sure you've seen them. If you're at all on like the YouTube like business entrepreneur algorithm, I mean, these Amazon FBA gurus, they're just ruthless.
Yeah, it's just a course. Yeah, everywhere you turn, there's a course.
Yeah, and they just make the craziest promises. They're like, you don't have to do a single thing and you'll make $20,000 a month. Like they just inflate the vision of what Amazon FBA is like crazy so that you can sign up for a course. They, I guess I just was kind of another one of those suckers that fell for the pitch, because they very much kind of similar in recruiting world, where they kind of work off of your like self-esteem, and they're like, you think you're capable of building a business, right? And I'm like, yeah,
sure.
Like I'm capable, right? And they're like, okay, well, take a bet on yourself. Like, they make it like you're not giving them money in return for a course, but you're like investing in yourself. It's very interesting, the sales psychology behind these courses. And anyways, we connected with this Amazon FBA guru. He promised that within 6 months we would be making $10,000 of profit every month. And I was like, that sounds pretty freaking good. So he had multiple packages. He had like just a basic course that was just like a video course for like $2,000. Then he had like the video course plus kind of like weekly consulting calls with him for $5,000. And then he had like a done for you where he just like built your Amazon store for $10,000. And so we had some time on our hands. My wife was in school, and I was like, okay, you can kind of work on this while I'm out doing sales. And then we were planning on moving back home to Utah. So we knew we were going to have a lot more time on our hands. So we went with the $5,000 option. So we literally, I look back, Clay, and I just cannot believe how naive I was, and that I just wired this guy $5,000, no contract, no like nothing in paper. It was literally, he sent me like a Stripe link, and I just like sent him $5,000. I mean, that just kind of goes to show how I didn't know how to handle the money that was in my bank account. And I think taking risks is great, but it was just a very, very emotional decision where I just was like, yeah, like, $5,000, whatever, let's just see what happens. Anyways, the course turned out to be very subpar. It was basically just a bunch of videos of him just saying, anyone can do this. If you just try, like, you'll make money. And then like, he never really would go into detail of anything. And then like a few weeks after we sent him the money, he sent us a message and was like, hey, I'm actually stepping back from the consulting. I was like, well, no, you're not. We just paid you. And it was just like every phone call we'd get on, it was very like.
So did he follow through on like the weekly phone calls?
Yeah, no, he just kind of like started flaking out on those. And like, he was like available for calls, but like, it was very hard to get him on the call. And then once you were on the call, he was very like, he could care less about you. I mean, it was very much like, get the sale, and then he just was trying to get the next sale. And he really didn't care about like customer fulfillment and actually like fulfilling on the promises he made. And again, I don't want to make this podcast about like ragging on this guy, and I won't say his name. He's dealing with a lot right now. He's actually going through some lawsuits and stuff. Like he's screwed over a lot of people. And I was just one of the other guys that kind of fell for his scheme. Anyways, so we spent $5,000, and we had very little knowledge to show for it. And so we were like, well, we spent all this money, like we might as well try to figure this out. And so it was through the course of like lots of YouTube videos, lots of Reddit forums, and honestly, just trial and error, because we did end up starting a brand And we did order inventory from China. I think we spent about $8,000 in our first round of inventory. And we launched a product on Amazon, our own brand on Amazon. And I will not give this course a lot of credit because we did learn a lot by ourselves. And there's so much content on YouTube. You really can just like learn it on YouTube. But I think the value that $5,000 investment gave was just kind of a buy-in of just a commitment of, hey, like, we're going to figure this out because we've actually like put money in the table, on the table. It's not just like,
the game.
Yeah, it's not just like a hope or it's not just like a dream or something we wrote down on a piece of paper. Like we actually put money into it. And so we had to figure it out. So we launched a brand.
What was the brand? What were you guys selling?
Yeah, it's so random, dude. It was these little tabletop fire pits. They're these little concrete fire pits. And they just had like a high keyword search volume on Amazon.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how you find these little opportunities. And random products, but we thought it was cool. We listed it. And within 2 months, we completely sold out of what we thought was going to be about 6 months of inventory. So
Wow.
we're like, hold on. We're like, there might be something to this, right? We might have actually figured this out. Even though I will tell you, this is over the course of like 9 months. Like this is not like this guy was making promises like we'd have a store up within like a month or two. And it took us about months to even launch our first store. But anyways, so I'm getting into the weeds here. But
okay, well, I'm curious too. Were you nervous about dropping $8,000 on inventory after you'd already lost $5,000 on trying out this course, and now you're about to like almost double that investment? Yeah, and you don't even know if the stuff's going to sell yet.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing. I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, obviously, I'm grateful for the risks I took and the things I tried. But honestly, I think that just goes to show how desperate I was to find another way to make money. I think both things, I gave this guy $5,000 just because he was telling me what I wanted to hear. And then I was willing to just like spend all this money on inventory just at a chance to hopefully sell it and get some kind of return. And so I was desperate, man. Like I really wanted to find a way to make money for myself and not have to go and like knock doors or go and get a W-2 job. I was so hungry to find something. And so I was willing to take those chances.
And so what made you confident that this stuff could sell? You mentioned like the high key search words. Well, was there anything else that made you feel like, okay, I've done my research, I've been on YouTube? What were some of the other things that made you feel really confident, like, hey, this is going to work?
Yeah, I think kind of going back, we had a few friends that had dabbled in the Amazon FBA space and like they were doing well. I mean, doing like $5,000, $10,000 a month in sales, so it wasn't like anything crazy. So we thought worst case scenario, we sell these things at cost and just like break even. Or we lose a few $1,000s. Like, and we've already lost a few $1,000s in the course. What's another few thousand? At least we can say we tried. And to be honest, Clay, there's a quote, not a quote, it was actually something a friend told me a few years ago. Because I'm a dreamer. Like I love to talk about business ideas. When I called you up, Clay, I was like, dude, like what you have is so awesome. I love to hype people up. I love to dream and to just think about what could be. And this person, they told me, Gib, you just need your first failure. You just need to fail. And that hit me because I spent so much time talking about all the businesses I wanted to start, but really what I needed was to actually start learning how to run and build businesses. And the only way you can do that is through failure and just through trial and error. That's the only way. So that was also in my mind during this whole process is I was like, I have to I might fail, but like at least I'll be one step closer to figuring something out and figuring out how to make money online and how to be an entrepreneur and how to run my own business. And so that store, it did pretty well. I mean, we sold out of inventory, and then how we pivoted into a more agency service model was we realized that we had spent all this time learning this Amazon skill, and we were curious if this skill was like valuable to anyone else. And we thought about I was like, should we like kind of become a guru? And I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to mess with that. Like, it just seems so messy to make these promises to people and take their money and then just kind of sell them a dream. So I didn't want to do that. And so I started reaching out to e-commerce businesses that are already established, like on Shopify, or maybe they're selling things like out of the back of their car at like expos or markets or whatever it is, but people that are trying, that have created a brand or created a product and are trying to sell it and get it out to people. We went to a Pinners conference. It's in Sandy, Utah. It's basically just an expo of a bunch of brands and like creative people, like creative little companies that just want to sell little trinkets and stuff. And I just started asking them if they had any experience selling their products on Amazon. And that day I talked to maybe 8 or maybe 7 or 8 business owners that had these little e-commerce brands. And 6 of them ended up signing a contract with us for us to build their Amazon store for them. So it was like
Oh, wow.
a 90% close rate. It was like we found this product market fit, right? And so we didn't really know what we were doing. I mean, we had our own experience, and that's literally my pitch. Is always like, hey, we launched our own brand, we sold out of inventory, we're waiting for more inventory, and we like have this skill. Can we help you with your Amazon store? And just that pitch, it was so basic, it was so simple. We were able to close 6 deals just in that.
That's crazy. And so you say established e-com brands. Is that someone that like has a website or they have an Instagram and they're getting some deal flow, but
Yes.
you're just adding it? So you're adding on an Amazon just to say, hey, maybe you're doing 10K a month. What if we could get you to 20K by adding an Amazon?
Exactly. So our thought process was, we don't, the part about e-commerce that's really annoying is the supply chain. Is like, you got to manufacture in China. And I know this podcast is not about e-commerce, so I won't go into too much detail, but you got to talk to suppliers. You got to negotiate prices. You got to deal with tariffs, the Trump tax. You got to ship everything over. Then you have to warehouse it. Then you have to ship it out to customers. And then you have to like hire a 3PL. Like the whole logistics side of things, we really didn't enjoy, but we did enjoy the marketing side of SEO, Amazon SEO, of getting keyword ranking, of getting traffic, of driving conversion rate, having awesome content, running ads. Like that side we actually liked. So our thought process was, and it's just kind of turned into this, is we partner with brands that already have the product and the supply chain figured out. They just need help with marketing. And they're running their social media, they're doing their Shopify, and we say, hey, there's a whole other income stream you're missing out on by not being on Amazon. I'll show you how much your competitors are making. And this kind of goes into like how we get clients and stuff and my pitch and everything. But we were able to just show them like their competitors and how much money they're making, and just say, hey, you're missing out on this. We'll help you capitalize on this. Pay us a one-time fee, and we'll get your store built on Amazon, and we'll show you just how many sales we can start pushing through the pipeline.
So who was like, do you have an example of any of the first customers you brought over and what kind of success they did or didn't have?
Yeah, totally. No, we had a few flops for sure. And that's the thing, is like our first close, it was like a revenue share deal where they were like, hey, you take a percentage of the profit. And that way it was super low risk for them. And that ended up kind of turned into like a lot of friction, because we wanted to take things one way in order to grow their brand. But at the end of the day, it's their brand, and they have the say, and they get the final decision on where they want to take things. And so there was kind of some friction of like, we wanted to take things one way. We wanted to advertise one way and portray the brand one way, because that was what we believed was going to get the most amount of sales. But they wanted to do something different. And so we didn't really like that rev share model. So our first client was a pickleball brand, and they were just like, hey, once we break even, you can take 50% of profit. So it was like a very generous offer, because they were just like, I mean, it was just extra sales for them, right? They already had their operations with their website and with their wholesale deals. So Amazon was just kind of extra. And so we brought in, a few $1,000 of revenue, and we're kind of driving some sales, but we saw that there was some market opportunities that we wanted them to take, and they didn't want to take them. And so it became hard, because it was like our ability to make money was held back by the way that they wanted to run their brand. So that's when we switched to just a flat fee model, where we get the store up on Amazon, but ultimately it's like, and we'll tell them and we'll give them suggestions, we'll provide consultation and help them in every way we can. But ultimately, like, it's their brand and it's their baby, and we're just here to help. And so that was kind of finding the incentives and how to align the incentives correctly so that everyone wins.
So how do you price these things? It sounds like they were talking about a rev share model, and you do a lot of the leg lifting, right? So you come in, you create the store, you help do keyword search ranking, you help get them sales coming through this other channel. How do you set up a pricing and packaging for new customers?
Yeah, so that's been a total work in progress as we've kind of tried to find what, what offer our customers respond to. And really, Clay, I think that's been the biggest lesson of this whole entrepreneurship journey is just like the number one thing you need to do is just try something, because you're not going to know, like you're not going to, then you'll receive feedback and then you can pivot and then you can change courses. And that has been such an important lesson of just getting out there, at least just talking to customers. I mean, that's what I said. Our first few clients were like in-person sales. We weren't doing cold email. We weren't doing cold DMs. We weren't like calling people. I mean, we were face-to-face pitching these businesses on what we thought was like a decent offer, and they responded to it. And we were like, okay, we found an offer that people respond to, and we could get that instant feedback, and we could get like we tell them a certain price and we see if they kind of like, are like, oh, that's a little too much. Or if they're like, oh yeah, that's great. And we're like, okay, we're charging too little. Let's increase it a little bit. Or we're charging too much. Let's decrease. Or, hey, they like the rev share model. They don't like the rev share model. They like the flat fee. They don't like monthly subscriptions. I mean, it's been a total work in progress with every single new client we sign. We kind of try to change some things, and then we find what our clients respond the best to. So for example, we for a while there, we're like, hey, we really want to get our MRR up. We really want to have a monthly recurring revenue, something that's very reliable. Mm-hmm. And so we just started signing clients right out the gate on like a monthly payment. And at first they were like, yeah, that's great. Get us on Amazon and we'll pay you every month. That's awesome. But the reality is about Amazon is that we run into a lot of roadblocks that can put things back. And we had this one client that was paying us every month, but their store wasn't even live yet. And so they were getting frustrated because they were just sending money to us without seeing a result. And so then we switched to a flat fee startup package where they pay us a chunk of money up front, and we promise to get their listing up and running, and we'll work until we do. And then once the listing is running, once the Amazon store is up, then we turn them on the monthly package. But we kind of get them over that hump, get them over that initial step of getting their store up on Amazon. And then we can start working on that monthly recurring revenue.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like what you said about the whole pivoting and everything. And it kind of comes back to what you mentioned earlier about sometimes you just need to fail. And so yes. I don't know, it's easier at larger companies just to like go into like a very patterned rut and you just like know what works. Is like where you're at, it's how many times can you fail and reiterate to like make it a little bit better. So I'm curious, you're not doing this full time though. You have another job. You started this after doing door to door. You've been in sales a little bit, but now you're working at a company full time and then doing this on the side. How do you manage all of that? Because I know for a lot of people listening, like they're trying to start something on the side and it just feels like you're working 24/7. How do you keep your sanity while also trying to build this and work a full-time job?
Yeah. I will say I am very, very fortunate because my business partner is my wife.
Okay.
And Bailey, and I will tell you that's it's been so fulfilling to learn how to work together on that level. It's been hard. There are times when we've had to not be in a 24/7 business meeting, like you said. I mean, especially, it's my spouse, right? We're together all the time. And then all we do is talk about our business. And we're like, wait, we actually have to be like in love and be friends and have to like separate that. So it's been really interesting to learn how to compartmentalize our life and how to say, okay, during these hours, we're talking business, we're business partners. During these hours, we're husband and wife, we're best friends, we're having fun, we're laughing, we're not worrying about our business and the problems we're facing. So in terms of like my personal balance, because how we do things right now, Bailey does work full time on the business. So she handles all operations. So in terms of like, client fulfillment and actually fulfilling the order that we sold and actually communicating with the clients, she does that every single day. And then I am working a full-time job. So I'm in an office every day. Not today, I'm working from home, fortunately. But I just kind of squeeze in some hours, either early mornings or when I get back from work. Sometimes during like a lunch break, I'll just kind of pull out my laptop, my personal laptop, and work a few hours on the business. But it is an ongoing journey to try to find that work life, the work balance, right? Of trying to
Oh, for
find
sure.
your job that you're selling your time to somebody else, and then you're your own employee. You need to, work for your own business. And that's honestly been my biggest focus right now, Clay, is and why I'm doing both at the same time. Because our business, like we average about $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and and our overhead is very, very small. It's like, we operate at like 95% profit margins just because it's a service business. So it's really only our time that we're selling. And so like technically I could quit my day job and go in on this full time, but I want to prove to myself that I can run this business with very limited hours because I'm also proving to myself that I'm a disciplined like employee. Because at the end of the day, that's what I want to do is I want to hire myself. I want to hire Gib because he's on top of it. He can get things done every single week and he can put in the hours even when the hours are slim. And so I'm kind of in this like journey of trying to prove to myself that I can do this so that I can justify quitting my day job and going in on myself full time. Because my worry is if I quit my job, I'll, succumb to just laziness and just kind of like slower hours and still operating the business on 10 hours a week. And then what do I do with the rest of my time? Right. So it's, I wish I had some like perfect answer of like the perfect schedule of how to do things, but really it's just trying to balance every single day.
I think that's interesting that you're worried about becoming complacent if you had more time to work on it. So I guess I'm curious. It sounds like you're trying to work through what it would take for you to go all in on it. What is it going to take for you to go all in and be like, let's build this agency like full time?
Money. It's more money, right? I mean, it's right now we have my income from my job, which is constant. It's there every single month. All I have to do is show up and get my work done, and I get that paycheck. Right? It's very safe and it's very nice. Whereas with our business, I mean, we do have monthly recurring revenue. We do have clients like, we're connected to their bank account, and on the first of every month we were able to pull out our monthly payment, and that's awesome. But I mean, a client can drop us or something can happen or whatever it is, and like it's a lot bigger risk to just rely on your business every single month. And the thing is like we're busy right now. We do spend a lot of hours. I mean, I know Bailey works probably 30 hours a week on the business. She just barely graduated, so she's kind of transitioning into more of a full-time role. And then I probably only do 10 hours a week. I mean, I do 2 hours every Monday morning. I wake up really early. It's like my dedicated, like I have like some tasks I get done every Monday morning. And then just throughout the week, I'll just kind of squeeze in some hours here and there. And I wish I was more disciplined and like Wednesday at 5 o'clock or Thursday at 6 o'clock. Like I wish I had some specific hours and was better at scheduling my time. But yeah, right now, like we're not stretched super thin to where we need more time. And so it really comes down to signing more clients and like overwhelming ourselves before I can justify, I need more time to work on my business.
Hmm. That makes sense. And it's good that you're able to manage both at a pretty high level. I'm curious if you could go back to yourself a year ago or a year and a half ago when you were just barely figuring things out, like what kind of advice would you have given yourself back then?
I know. So my job in the business is sales and, and getting new clients. And I'm working on like some cold email systems and some automations. And I look back and I'm like, if I had sent 20 cold DMs every day for the last year, I can't even imagine how many additional clients we had. And so and that's what I'm working on right now is that daily consistent action and like making those daily efforts because they just compound so quickly over time. And I look back and like, we've built this little business. I mean, I've said this over and over, but like we are very young. We're very small. I mean, I won't just sit here and say like I've got it all figured out. I mean, I still feel like I'm very much in the young early phases, but I just look back and the little small things that I've done over time, just like the weekly little meeting that Bailey and I have where we go over all of our clients. Like we do that every single week. We don't miss. And I look back and I say, what other little actions could I take? Like a weekly podcast like you're doing, or a weekly LinkedIn post, or whatever it is. Like how big of results I could have achieved if I had been doing those things every single day. So that's what I'm trying to set in place now, is I'm trying to look ahead and say, okay, if I send out 100 cold emails a day, after a year, that's what, 30,000, 360,000 emails. Like you try to see what these little actions that you can make, and then over time you will start to see the results. So I wish I could tell, Gib a year and a half ago, like, find just a few things you can do every single day or every single week and just commit to them, because that's where the massive change actually happens. It's not in the working till 3 a.m. because you have some project you want to finish. Like that's awesome, and that makes you feel good and makes you feel like you work hard. But like, that's not really, if you just do that once a month, like, you're not really breaking barriers, right? You're just kind of like working yourself. You're working really hard, but it's those consistent actions that really make the difference.
That's cool. So to sum it up, just be consistent.
Yeah.
Like, focus on the small things.
Define what those consistent actions are, right? Like actually, I mean, like I said, I told you before we started recording, Clay, I just look up to you as like, you made this commitment to posting a podcast once a week. And like, you've done it every single day, and you've seen as that action has just compounded. And every single week you get a few more listens, or, you get a few more people. I mean, I came across your LinkedIn profile and I was like, this is awesome. This just speaks to me so well, of a sales guy turned into an entrepreneur. That's so awesome. And like, it's just those consistent efforts that really make the biggest change.
For sure. Yeah. And I think as you look back, I imagine it's crazy how like the 1% a day thing it seems really overrated, but it's not, because if you can just get 1% better in different ways. And I feel like I noticed that too, like here in the podcast, I noticed I'm getting better at saving time so that I'm not up until 3 a.m. every Monday night trying to get this ready to publish, or sending out LinkedIn posts or sending the newsletter, right? It's just trying to automate systems, and like also how your brain works, not just automating systems, but automating like how you think about things so that you can make decisions quicker and get in touch with more people and have more conversations. I think is really important. So, but yeah, Gib, no, I appreciate you being on the show and sharing a perspective of what it's like to build something while you're in a business, because I think for a lot of us, that's the best and safest way to do it. You're able to mitigate your downside risk. I've heard some entrepreneurs recently talk about, actually, really, it's probably been like the last year and a half, I've been obsessed with this concept of asymmetric risk.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's like my favorite concept. And I think really wealthy people do it good, because the concept is simply that if you take a risk on something, there's almost no downside, right? So how can you take a risk that has no downside, but possible upside? So even if it's not like, oh, we'll get 1,000x return, we might only get 1 or 2x return, but we know we won't get any loss. Those are the types of bets to take. So for me with the podcast, it's like there's literally zero downside with doing the podcast, because I network with some of the coolest people that I want to talk to, and I spend a couple $100s to do that, right? And so whereas, I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up and think, why don't you go spend a bunch of money on something, and then it like you get no upside risk out of it. So really like being able to like do that thought process is
and that's exactly what working a day job while building a business on the side is, right? I mean, I know that's what you're getting to is I mean, we know if every single one of our clients fired us today, like, we'd be fine, right? And I think that's very awesome, and it's comforting. And I think there are times where you do need to burn the bridges, and you need to say, there's no way back. Sure. But there are also times where you need to calculate in the failures that you're going to have, and just accept that they're going to be there, and that's just part of the learning process, and account for them. Like, we know we're making mistakes every single day in our business, and we know that things could go wrong, but like, we've already calculated for that. We already know that's coming, and we're not scared of it. And that's what encourages us to keep trying things, to keep putting ourselves out there and keep signing that next client, because like we just signed this golf brand based out of South Africa, and they just have all these like shirts and hats, and I have no idea how we're going to sell their stuff on Amazon, but like, we signed them up, and we're going to go for it and see what happens. And we might fail, but at least we're trying, and we feel safe, and we're willing to take those risks because we know that failure isn't the end of the world.
That's incredible. Gib, thanks for coming on. Appreciate having you. If people have questions about Amazon, starting an Amazon store, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. again, I want to be more consistent. I hope you know that when I say these things, it's not because I live them all, but because I want to live them all, right? And I'm on LinkedIn, Gib Kroff. I'm sure you have my name spelled out. Kroff is the last name. I'm on LinkedIn. If you can connect with me, DM me there. I'm pretty active.
Okay.
Instagram, I'm there. Gib Kroff is the username, but I'd say LinkedIn is probably the best place.
All right, cool. We'll send them there in the show notes. Thanks for being on.
All right. Thanks so much, Clay.
Hey, one last thing before you guys go, please go down and leave a review of your favorite episode on Salespreneur Stories. It's my mission to inspire as many sales reps to go and start a business and go on their own, and I can't do it without you guys. Thanks.